Well, hello there, Warcraft 3 fans, and potentially Scry Mind fans. This is Scry Mind with another Warcraft 3 audio commentary, and this is going to be a 1v1 game on Turtle Rock with my friend Jake playing against this elf opponent, nthgg. I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to stand for. I've never played this guy before, I don't believe. Um, Jake's description suggests that the guy he's playing against might be a map hacker, but honestly, I don't know. We'll see. We can try to analyze that from our perspective. So we're gonna see the elf going for a demon hunter build, a little bit of an odd build order. He's getting a second moonwell before he's even started his ancient of war. His ancient of war is not in the traditional spots for creeping the turtles. Ancient of war creeping. And again, doesn't look terrible. You can park a bunch of archers here and defend a ghoul push or something like that, if you so desire and or needed to. But it turns out Red is going for a fiend build, and he is not getting his hero at the altar. He is going to be going for a tavern hero, and that tavern hero is going to be the alchemist. Now again, I have said before that with undead, sometimes I've fooled around with going alchemist first with fiends. I think it's an interesting strategy. It's pretty effective in some circumstances. I like to do it in undead mirror matches for a number of reasons. I think it's really strong against ghouls and gargs, which a lot of times those are going to be some of the common units in undead mirror matches. It's not terrible against fiends either. If it's like Death Knight fiends, the alchemist is going to offer a really good ability to focus fire stuff down. And he's pretty good at creeping. Now the one sort of weakness is his armor is really low, and you're not going to have death coil for healing stuff. So, while you're creeping, you can potentially take a lot of damage if you're tanking with the alchemist or even the fiends. Anything you're tanking with, you're not going to be able to heal up. So unless you get heal spray, which I don't really recommend. It doesn't really work too well with the strategy, I don't think. Not that heal spray is a terrible spell. Just in combat, it's really sort of unwieldy because, it's a channeling spell, and the alchemist's other abilities are focused on damage output, and his base damage is one of his strengths. It's pretty high, even though his attack, without chemical rage, his attack speed isn't great. He's got one of the highest base damages of any of the heroes in actuality. Notice it's 28 to 55 even at level 1. So yeah, typically though I like to get acid bomb first when creeping. Jake loves to go for chemical rage. I don't, it's sort of a trade-off. Acid bomb is going to increase the damage output of like all your units when you focus the stuff that's got the armor reduction. But the downside is it costs 75 mana. And without chemical rage, if you get creep jacked or something, the alchemist is kind of slow. But typically the way, I play it, like in Undead Mirror, for example, is, if they're going to harass you with, like, ghouls or anything like that, Acid Bomb is really strong against ghouls once you have, like, 1 or 2 fiends, a couple of skeletons. And he's got a pretty good amount of hit points. So, and technically, even if you want to just lose him at level 1, I mean, you don't obviously usually want to lose your hero. But again, if they're going to lose like 5 ghouls trying to kill your alchemist or something like that, the trade-off is going to be in your favor. And that's just assuming they can't actually get the kill. If they only have like 4 ghouls harassing you, they probably will go for fiends, to be honest, though. But with acid bomb, it's going to be pretty easy to pick off some of those fiends, even if you're getting harassed with like a dreadlord or something crazy like that. So, I just think it's I just prefer to sort of have acid bomb. Now again, like I say, it costs more mana to do acid bomb, and then if you're going to like try to chase stuff down or harass, chemical rage is a little bit more effective in that instance. But I just think acid bomb just adds a little more oomph to everything. Maybe the goal for Jake is once he hits level 3, he's pretty much, he's over 300 mana here, but so he'll maybe have extra mana since he didn't use a lot on acid bomb. But Again, against anything other than a Demon Hunter, I don't think that would be a big. It's not really doesn't seem to be a big issue since they're not exactly very high mana cost spells. At level, you know, Chemical Rage only costs 25 mana, and Acid Bomb only costs 75. So, you know, Acid Bomb, it costs about as much as any other nuke spell, but it's an AoE spell. So. But at any rate, and he's got a pretty decent sized mana pool. Notice he's got about 390 here, so you know, can usually get off a couple of castings of each of those and be okay. So, but at any rate, we're gonna see, and his intelligence, you know, is 24. I guess that's decent. I don't usually pay attention to the numbers too closely. I guess he's got more intelligence than like a priestess and a demon hunter. So, but his agility is low. So. But at any rate, we're going to see both players going for an expansion. Yellow is going to be adding in a Priestess of the Moon second, massing archers. Looks like he's going to be getting Druids of the Talon. It's sort of a classical strategy. You know, the Demon Hunter and the Priestess. Priestess for the extra damage output, a ranged hero. Demon Hunter, obviously, the star of the show, usually for Elf. Really good all-around hero, good at tanking, good at creeping, good at harassing. Really good late game, really good ultimate. You know, it's really hard to sort of say it's really hard to sort of counter the Demon Hunter. You know, I guess the one weakness of Mana Burn and him in general is he's a melee hero, and Mana Burn is a low range spell. Immolation is a low range spell, and Evasion, you know, you can just not focus fire him and counter it that way. But other than that, it's really hard to sort of counter him per se. Sort of like some other heroes like a Blade Master or arguably a Demon Hunter. I mean, not Demon Hunter, a Death Knight. But at any rate, Yellow's pulling back. I don't know if he had vision or anything to want to run back here and defend his expansion. But this is a pretty good scenario for him. The Alchemist is already pretty low hit points. The item he got, you know, is going to give him mana, but it's not, you know, he'd rather have a Belt of Strength, Giant Strength there, since, you know, it was already low hit points. But, so this is really bad news. It's really going to be easy for the Elf to focus fire this Alchemist with the lower armor, and then with the Druids of the Talon reducing the armor. And archers do really well against Fiends. They have Elun's Grace, which reduces Fiend damage output. I don't know. I would assume Elun's Grace reduces Acid Bomb damage output, but I'm not entirely certain on that. But you know, Fiends cost way more than archers in terms of gold and food count. So if you have 2 Fiends, you can have 3 archers, and you know, obviously that's going to benefit the Elf player in that scenario. And that's actually going to make like healing scrolls and armor scrolls a little bit more effective, just having more units to get those bonuses. So that's pretty good as well. So Yellow's going to creep this orange camp out. He's being very careless with his Druid of the Talon, and he is going to lose that Druid of the Talon, which takes extra from the piercing turtles there. So that was sort of bad news, but he gets the camp done, and he's got some pretty good items. The Parrot to Vitality is great on a Demon Hunter. Obviously the Circlet, pretty good on all heroes, the Demon Hunter especially. Ring of Protection is generally thought to be a weak item, but you know, with an extra 200 hit points from these items, he's going to get a ton of work out of this Ring of Protection actually. So I notice he's got 36 damage reduction, and he's got 1100 HP. So that Demon Hunter is just going to be able to go bananas on everything. And again, the undead player dropped his Rod of Necromancy to pick up a Scroll of the Beast. I guess you would prefer the Scroll of the Beast, but it was dangerous. The Elf could have picked up that Rod of Necromancy. But again, another situation where the undead had to TP. So again, while they both have the expansions going and the undeads is towered up, so it's harder to harass. I would say the Elf is sort of has the advantage on hero levels, because in addition to the level 4 Demon Hunter, he actually is almost at level 3 on the Priestess of the Moon. So, you know, he's got a really strong second hero. Now, if that was a Panda, I think level 3 would be a little bit more threatening, especially if he is going to try to transition into certain sorts of units. you know, like ghouls or guards or anything like that. But you know, a true Shadow Aura is decent as well. So and he got level 2 true Shadow Aura, so he's getting extra 20% damage on his archers and dots. Which, you know, the numbers don't look all that impressive. 4 for the archers. But if you add up all, you know, 4 doesn't sound impressive, but if you add up, he's got like maybe 8, looks like 8 or 9 archers, and then a dot is going to get an extra 2. So if you add 8, or if you, you know, do the math, 8 times 4 is going to be, you know, 32 extra damage per volley. And then, you know, add in another 2 for the dot, so 34 extra damage a volley is pretty substantial, the numbers there. So, and Red's gonna immediately TP. This was, I don't really know why the elf used that armor scroll there before he town portaled. Really sort of bizarre to do that. I don't know if he was gonna use it for creeping purposes, which is really unusual to do. Especially on that particular camp. There's only 3 creeps. He's got a mass army. But at any rate, I don't know if he map packs or not, but he made the undead TP. So now both players in low upkeep here. I was going to try to say maybe the undead's in no upkeep, but both in low upkeep. And Red's trying to figure out what he needs to do against his army, because in A-bombs it really seems like a great, it seems like a great idea to counter the archers and dots. Now, dots are going to do extra to the A-bombs, but they have a ton of hit points. And they have a good armor type against archers and damage type. So, and then with the statues, you know, that's sort of going to help keep stuff around. And obviously the Alchemist with Acid Bomb is pretty good against archers. But the elf has added a Keeper of the Grove second. And that, you know, Entangle is really strong against, A-bombs. Not quite as strong against ghouls. So here's really sort of the goal of the undead player, and I think it's going to work out pretty well. Disease Cloud also going to be pretty good in this scenario. But so he's got a mass of units here with all these ghouls and fiends and A-bombs. He's got a really good mix of units. The fiends are going to do great against the dots. They do extra damage. A-bombs and ghouls going to do extra against the archers, and then with the armor subtraction from the acid bomb on everything, it's going to be really good. Now the demon hunter has immolation, which again arguably could be good against the ghouls, but you know, it's going to be hard for him to get into position there. So this battle it looks like it's going to be really close. It would be good if he had destroyers, because Cyclone is actually also obviously really good if you don't have counter it. So he was able to Cyclone 2 of those A-bombs, and you know, he's getting a lot of damage in. He killed all the ghouls, which again, ghouls are I think ghouls are one of the more underpowered units in the game, actually. You know, they're very, very, you know, sort of small windows where they're like can really counter something hard, like archers. But that's, you know, another balanced discussion. So notice the elf just really sort of mopped up here, and this is really bad for the undead player because he's really far from level 6, and on the other hand, the elf is halfway to level 6 on his demon hunter, and he is almost at level 5 on his priestess of the moon. Now he did lose the keeper, which I think was a level 1, but so that's going to be cheap for him to revive him. Now that he's got destroyers, a little bit better to counter the dots. But again, you know, with that armor scroll, the elf had an armor scroll to mitigate the acid bomb effect. So, not looking great for Jake. Now, the one good thing about losing everything is he went into no upkeep for a little bit. So, you know, it sort of helped him bounce back. Now, he didn't stay in it very long, but again, he doesn't want to let the elf just creep out the rest of the map and mass level, get a bunch of items, maybe get some more expansions. He needs to be careful of this. Jake has a shade following here. He needs to be careful because obviously the Watcher Ward was right there, so that was really sort of a mistake on Jake's part to go close to that shop. But you know, what are you going to do? So anyway, the elf is being very diligent about picking up all these scrolls, and the scrolls with his army are going to be very, very effective Now armor scroll, now it shouldn't be as effective since Jake is adding some destroyers, or at least one destroyer. So you know that's going to be able to devour the armor scroll and give him extra damage. So he's not going to want to use that in the presence of a destroyer. But again, this is really sort of a weird scenario for Jake. What would probably be a pretty strong counter to this army is mass wagons and necromancers, necrowagon or wagonmancer if you prefer those titles for the strategy. But you know the elf right now doesn't have a whole lot of counter units like this, like fairy dragons. He does have a bunch of wisps which can detonate, so he could probably defend his base fairly easily from those things. But at a certain stage, I think Wagonmancer is one of the stronger strategies against Elf. The sort of problem with it is, is getting it and sort of keeping map control, and a high-level panda can sort of deal with almost anything the undead can do, but specifically, meat wagons and necromancers, the panda can really just wreak havoc on those. So I know the elf is setting up another expansion. Finally, Jake is going to be able to knock out this one expansion though, so that's a little bit of an advantage here. But the elf killed Jake's hero, so he doesn't have level 6, and even when he gets level 6, the elf doesn't have a whole lot of really big units right now, so it's not gonna be like transmuting bears or anything like that. So we're gonna speed it up here and see. So Jake has added a meat wagon for getting extra damage on the dots, and it's gonna get disease cloud as well. So, but again, this is gonna be pushing this base is gonna be just a nightmare for Jake. He's gonna sort of lose all of his ghouls trying to focus that demon hunter. But the good thing is he's got the expansion and his opponent does not at this stage. So now the burden is on the elf, but the elf just hit level 6 with a demon hunter. So now this sort of changes everything. Level 6 is going to be very strong in battles. Jake is going to be just trying to avoid that as much as he can. The elf probably shouldn't have used the ultimate right there. He maybe needed it to ward off the battle, but Jake is now going to run away from it, and he's going to run right into the Tree of Eternity. So that was really a good catch. The elf should have sent it maybe over there. There's still plenty of gold in that mine, but it's easy to say in hindsight. But so now Jake is maybe going to, now he's got the counter army, and the elf can't use Metamorphosis. He should have just waited until he could use his ultimate again before he fought. But obviously the undead expansion up sort of makes that not a valid strategy. So this is going to be a win for Jake, and yeah, so pretty good game, pretty strong strategy there. Jake correctly made the right units and was able to overcome a pretty big level disadvantage. Actually, if you look at the unit kills, elf way outnumbered Jake, like 40 more unit kills, and hero kills. It wasn't until the end, I don't think, that he got that second one. So I think the elf was doing okay in that regard. Resource-wise, Jake was about 3,000. Well, we take into account the upkeep difference. 2,000, somewhere around 2,000 or so, 2,500 extra gold. So that's probably the he made 30 more units. So that was probably the difference, the extra gold. So hopefully you got something out of that and enjoyed it. Alchemist all day, every day. So this is Scrymine signing out.